Friends, if you are excited to watch the upcoming comedy-drama movie Nonnas 2025 in English, then you must like this video right now. And if you are visiting our channel for the first time ever, then a big welcome to you. Make sure to subscribe to our channel because here you will get all the latest updates about movies, web series, trailers, reviews, and so much more. In today's video we are going to talk about a very different kind of movie which is full of heart, humor, and delicious energy. The movie is called Nonnas and it is scheduled to release in 2025. From the title itself you can already guess that this film is going to be centered around some lovable grandmother characters, and that's exactly what makes it unique. In this video we will take a deep dive into every single aspect of the movie. What this film is all about, where and when you can watch it, which platform it will be available on, the story, cast, performances, music, behind-the-scenes production, and even some interesting facts and trivia. This movie is not like your regular comedy drama. It has a heartwarming vibe mixed with genuine laughs and real emotions. If you enjoy films that have soul, that make you smile and maybe even tear up a little, then Nonnas is going to be one you'll want to keep on your watch list. The concept of the film is based on real-life experiences and characters, and it brings to the screen something we don't often see: elderly women being the stars of the show and showing the world that life doesn't slow down with age. This film is all about passion, friendship, culture, food, and rediscovering your spark no matter how old you are. Now let's talk about the release. When is Nonnas going to hit the screens, and where can you watch it? We will tell you everything. Whether it will release in cinemas first or go straight to an OTT platform, we will update you with the confirmed release date and viewing options. Also, if you prefer watching films on television through satellite channels, we will give you that information too as soon as it becomes available. You won't have to go searching anywhere else because we have it all covered for you right here. Moving on to the technical side of the film, we will explore how the movie was made from the ground up. Who was behind the camera, how the scenes were shot, what kind of lighting, tone, and visual style the director and cinematographer used to bring this beautiful world of Nonnas to life. Was it shot in real Italian kitchens or styled sets in a studio? We will reveal all these details. And of course we cannot skip the music. Every great film needs a great soundtrack, and in this case the music of Nonnas plays an important role in creating the mood and emotion of each scene. Whether it's traditional Italian tunes or light-hearted background scores, the soundtrack adds flavor to the film just like herbs to a perfect pasta dish. Let's now talk about the entire production journey of the movie. In the pre-production phase, the script was written, casting decisions were made, and planning began. The team worked hard to find the perfect balance between humor and emotion, and to cast actors who could do justice to the special characters in the film. Then came the filming phase, where the real action happened. From setting up cameras to directing performances to capturing beautiful food scenes and heartfelt conversations, the film crew gave their best. After that, the post-production team came into play. Editors trimmed the footage, sound designers added depth to the scenes, color graders polished the visuals, and everything came together to make Nonnas the final product you'll be seeing on screen. What about the budget? How much money was spent to make this movie, and what are the expectations for its performance at the box office? We will talk about that too. How much was invested in production, filming, music, distribution, and marketing, and how much the producers expect to earn back? Is it a small-budget indie film or a medium-scale release with a strong storyline and cast? We will break it all down for you, and once the film hits the box office we will also update you on its earnings and success. Now let's talk about the most important part of the video, the story of the film. What is Nonnas all about? I will give you a spoiler-free review that explains the basic plot without revealing any major twists. The story follows a group of older women, mostly grandmothers, who team up to run a restaurant and bring their traditional cooking to a modern world. But that's not all. There are emotional layers in the story as these women reconnect with their past, overcome personal struggles, and form new friendships and bonds. It's a mix of laughter, love, life lessons, and of course a lot of mouth-watering food. Let's also explore the cast of the film. Who are the actors that are bringing these beautiful characters to life? We will go through the lead roles, the supporting actors, and talk about how their performances add value to the film. Whether it's a well-known face like Vaughn playing an important role or talented actresses bringing charm and authenticity to the Nonna characters, we will discuss each performance in detail. How the actors fit into their roles, how naturally they portray their characters, and which scenes stand out the most will all be part of this video. We will also share some exciting behind-the-scenes facts. How was the idea of this movie born? Was it inspired by real events or people? How did the writers come up with the characters, and what challenges did the team face during the shoot? Sometimes the stories behind the camera are just as interesting as the ones on screen, and we will give you those special details too. So friends, that's why I say do not miss this video. Stay with us till the end because we are going to reveal everything you need to know about Nonnas 2025. From the storyline to the release date, from the actors to the making of the film, we have all the information right here. So let's not waste any more time and start the video right now. Alright friends, now let's dive into the heart of the movie Nonnas 2025 and talk about the story, the plot, the flow, and how this delightful journey unfolds. And let me tell you, this is not your typical by the numbers storyline where everything is neatly packed from beginning to end. No. Nonnas dares to take its time like a slow simmering tomato sauce. It plays with flavors and builds its recipe scene by scene until you are fully immersed in a cinematic kitchen filled with laughter, love, a little chaos, and a whole lot of heart. The movie kicks off in a very grounded and relatable way. We meet Joe, a slightly lost and uninspired man who is drifting through life with a vague idea of what he wants but no real direction. He's not a failure, but let's just say he hasn't exactly discovered his purpose either. Now the twist comes early and it's deliciously unexpected. Joe ends up crossing paths with a group of elderly Italian women. Not just any elderly women. These are powerhouse grandmothers who know how to run a kitchen like a general commands an army. They don't just cook, they command respect. They chop onions with the authority of queens. And when Joe steps into their world, he doesn't realize he's about to get a complete life makeover served with a side of garlic bread. The movie doesn't rush the story. It lets the charm slowly unfold. The first major turning point comes when Joe ends up helping one of the Nonnas with something small, maybe delivering groceries or fixing a leaky pipe. From that moment on, he gets sucked into their world. Picture this man surrounded by aprons, flour flying everywhere, loud Italian music playing, and these women giving him life lessons while kneading dough. It's part culture shock, part therapy session, and part comedy show. But then the plot gets juicier. These women are not just making food for fun. They are fighting to keep their little neighborhood restaurant alive. A greedy developer wants to shut them down and turn the place into yet another soulless modern cafe. Now we have our central conflict. David versus Goliath. Tradition versus progress. Heart versus corporate greed. And at the center of it all is Joe, who suddenly finds himself not just helping but leading the charge. A man who didn't even know how to boil an egg is now fighting to save the very soul of authentic cooking. And here's where the movie starts to play with perspective. We don't just stick with Joe's view. The narrative gives us small windows into the lives of the Nonnas themselves. Their pasts, their memories, their regrets, their silent battles. One has lost her husband and never really moved on. Another hasn't spoken to her son in years. Another hides her sadness behind jokes and endless cooking. These are not side characters. They are the beating heart of the film, and the story honors each one of them. It's like opening a recipe book where every page has a different spice, a different flavor, a different emotion. One of the most powerful turning points in the film comes when Joe finally breaks down. He realizes he's not just helping the Nonnas. They're helping him. They're reminding him of who he is, who he could become. The film is clever here. It doesn't give you a grand speech or a big dramatic moment. It gives you a quiet scene, maybe a dinner, where Joe simply sits in silence surrounded by warmth and food and laughter, and you realize something has changed inside him. The final stretch of the movie is a roller coaster. Will they save the restaurant? Will the community come together? Will Joe finally find his place? The film keeps things fun, light, and emotionally rewarding. There's even a hilarious cooking competition thrown in just to keep things spicy. Think high-energy chaos with pasta flying in the air, tension rising, and Nonnas treating it like a matter of national pride. And somehow it still manages to sneak in those touching emotional beats without ever turning into a sad story. What makes the narrative truly shine is how it weaves food and family and identity into every scene. Every dish prepared is a symbol, every meal shared is a memory. And as the story unfolds, we're not just watching a man find his calling, we're watching a community remind us all of what really matters. Not fame or money or success. But connection, history, love, and of course a good plate of gnocchi. So if you're expecting a predictable journey from point A to point B, forget it. Nonnas 2025 is like an old family recipe that's been passed down through generations, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a whole lot of soul. Let's talk about the absolute heart and soul of Nonnas 2025, the characters. Because let's be honest, this movie doesn't work without its characters being rich, warm, and packed with flavor, just like the meals they serve. From the moment they appear on screen, you can tell these people aren't just props to move the plot forward. They're fully baked with real emotions, real backstories, and that kind of personality that makes you want to pull up a chair, sit down with them, and maybe ask for a second helping of whatever life story they're serving. Let's start with Joe. He's the main guy, the accidental hero, the man who goes from floating through life like an unbuttered noodle to being tossed straight into the boiling water of responsibility, emotion, and yes, marinara sauce. In the beginning, Joe is basically stuck. He's not miserable, but he's certainly not living with passion. He's disconnected from purpose, just kind of watching life pass him by like a rerun. But the magic of Joe's character arc is that his growth is so natural, so satisfying, you can almost track it by the food stains on his shirt. As he gets more involved with the Nonnas, as he starts helping out in the kitchen and standing up for their little restaurant, you see him transform. He finds his voice not through shouting speeches but by listening, learning, messing up, getting yelled at by grandmothers, and trying again. His growth is not dramatic, it's human. That's what makes it work. Now let's talk about the real stars of the show, the Nonnas themselves. These women are not background characters or comic relief. They are legends. Each one has her own flavor, her own quirks, her own baggage. There's Nonna Maria, who seems like the bossy one, always shouting instructions like she's running a 5-star restaurant out of her tiny kitchen, but underneath that tough exterior is a woman who's holding on to tradition because it's the last thing that still connects her to her late husband. Then you have Nonna Gina, who's always joking and flirting and acting like life's one big party, but there's a sadness there too, a kind of loneliness that sneaks in when no one's looking. And then there's Nonna Lucia, who rarely says much, but when she does it's always something wise and beautiful, like she's been storing those words for decades, just waiting for the right moment to drop them like philosophical breadcrumbs into a bowl of soup. Each Nonna has a story. Some have lost people. Some have been forgotten by their families. Some have regrets they never speak about, but you see it in the way they knead dough or stir sauce or look at old photos tucked behind flower jars. The movie doesn't beat you over the head with this emotional depth. It just lets it simmer. The more time you spend with these characters, the more you realize how rich they are. They don't change who they are to fit into the story, they invite the story to adapt to them. And that is a beautiful thing. The relationships in this movie are what truly drive the character arcs. The bond that forms between Joe and the Nonnas is like a surprise dish that somehow tastes perfect even though no one planned it. They become his family not because they're forced to, but because they choose to open their hearts to him. And Joe doesn't just learn how to cook. He learns how to listen, how to care, how to show up for someone other than himself. The scenes where they argue are hilarious, the ones where they comfort each other are quietly powerful, and the ones where they just cook in silence are oddly emotional. Their dynamic is messy and funny and real. Even side characters in the movie feel fully cooked. You might get a neighbor who pops in for dinner, or a rival chef with something to prove, or a young delivery guy who gets caught up in the Nonna's dramatic world. Each one adds a little spice, a little spark to the overall flavor of the film. Nobody is flat. Nobody is forgettable. And every character adds something to the stew. By the time the story reaches its final act, these characters feel like old friends. You've watched them grow, make mistakes, heal, reconnect, and teach each other how to live again. Nonnas 2025 doesn't just give you characters, it gives you people. People with history, with heartbreak, with humor, and most importantly with heart. You don't just root for them, you feel like you know them. You feel like you're part of their world, like you've been welcomed into their kitchen, handed an apron, and told to get to work while they tell you the story of their lives, one delicious scene at a time. Let's talk performances, because in Nonnas 2025 the cast isn't just acting, they are cooking up magic and serving it scene by scene with a side of charm and a full plate of emotional honesty. This movie doesn't lean on flashy effects or big action sequences. It leans entirely on its cast to make you believe that a mismatched group of grandmothers and one drifting man could change each other's lives using nothing but food, laughter, and a little bit of tough love. And oh boy, do they deliver. First up is our leading man Joe, played with the kind of humble confusion and quiet charm that makes you root for him even when he has absolutely no idea what he's doing. From the very first scene, Joe gives off that energy of a guy who wandered into the wrong kitchen but is too polite to leave. The actor playing him knows exactly how to walk that fine line between comedy and sincerity. He doesn't try to overplay anything. He reacts. He stumbles. He listens. And gradually you start to see the transformation happen, not through any big dramatic speech, but in the way he holds himself, the way he looks at the Nonnas, the way he starts to speak with more conviction. He makes Joe feel completely real, like someone you know or someone you've been. The performance sneaks up on you, and by the end you realize this guy has quietly carried the heart of the story on his shoulders and made it look effortless. But let's be honest here, the real show stealers, the absolute MVPs of this movie, are the Nonnas. These women are iconic. Each one brings something totally different to the table, and the ensemble works like a perfect family recipe where every ingredient matters. Nonna Maria is played by a veteran actress who takes the role of the strong, sharp-tongued matriarch and turns it into pure gold. She barks orders, she rolls her eyes, she waves her wooden spoon like a scepter, and yet when she gets quiet, when the emotion creeps in just for a second, it hits you like a punch to the gut. She doesn't just play a character, she embodies a generation, and you feel the weight of her history in every glance. Then there's Nonna Gina, the wildcard, the loud one, the one who tells inappropriate jokes at the dinner table and flirts shamelessly with anyone under the age of 50. She brings an infectious energy to the screen, and the actress playing her clearly knows how to own every moment. But what makes her performance stand out is the way she slips in and out of comedy and sadness like it's second nature. One minute she's dancing around the kitchen, and the next she's sitting quietly looking at a photo from her past, and you can feel everything without a single word being spoken. And we cannot forget Nonna Lucia, the quiet soul of the group. Her performance is the kind that doesn't scream for attention but somehow grabs it anyway. She has the fewest lines but the most powerful presence. The actress lets silence do the heavy lifting, and it works like magic. Her facial expressions, her body language, even the way she holds her hands while kneading dough tells a whole story. You believe her, you care about her, and when she finally does speak, you listen. What makes the performances so effective is the chemistry between the cast. These actors feel like a real community, like they've known each other for years. The way they interrupt each other, finish each other's sentences, bicker, laugh, cry, it all feels completely unforced. The dynamic between Joe and the Nonnas is particularly special. You can see the tension in the beginning, the awkwardness, the generational gap, and then you watch it slowly dissolve into mutual respect and genuine love. Every little moment shared between them, whether it's a small argument over sauce or a heartfelt conversation about family, feels earned and alive. Even the supporting cast brings flavor to the film. You get a hilarious neighbor who only ever shows up for leftovers, a rival chef with an ego the size of a pizza oven, and a local priest who acts as the unintentional therapist for half the community. Each of these smaller roles is played with just enough flair to be memorable, but never so much that they overshadow the central story. The film knows exactly when to let the supporting players shine and when to bring the focus back to the core group. The real magic of the performances in Nonnas 2025 is that they don't feel like performances. It feels like someone placed a camera in the middle of a real kitchen and just let life happen. There's warmth, there's conflict, there's comedy, and there is real emotional payoff. You watch these actors and you don't see people reading lines. You see characters who have lived full lives, characters who have something to teach and something to learn, and that emotional truth is what makes every performance land perfectly on the plate. Let's get into the real behind-the-scenes wizardry of Nonnas 2025 and talk about the direction, because this movie doesn't just happen by accident. Someone is clearly at the wheel steering this heartwarming, soulful chaos of pasta dough and life lessons with a very specific vision, and let me tell you, the director here is like the head chef of a bustling Italian kitchen, keeping everything balanced, flavorful, and emotionally satisfying without burning the sauce or overcooking the sentimentality. Right from the opening scene you can feel the tone being carefully crafted. The lighting is warm, almost golden, like the inside of a family-run trattoria at sunset. There's a softness to it that wraps around the characters and immediately puts you in the mood for something nostalgic yet alive, something that feels like home but with surprises waiting at every corner. And the director doesn't rush anything. That's the first thing you notice. There's patience. Scenes are allowed to breathe like bread rising slowly in a warm oven. Conversations unfold naturally without jump cuts or unnecessary edits. The pacing is deliberate, not slow, just unhurried in a way that respects the small details. The way a nonna folds a ravioli, the way Joe looks around the kitchen as if he's never really noticed how beautiful it is to watch someone cook with love. Stylistically, the director makes some bold but charming choices. For one, there's this subtle shift in perspective that happens throughout the film. It starts from Joe's point of view but slowly begins to open up, allowing the audience into the world of the Nonnas. We start seeing their memories, their flashbacks, brief moments from their past dropped in like spices. These little visual flourishes never scream for attention, but they add emotional depth. Maybe it's a quiet black and white memory sequence of a wedding in an old Italian village, or a faded photo coming to life for just a moment as one of the Nonnas tells a story. These moments are handled gently with a kind of cinematic grace that never feels forced. It's just enough to make you feel like you've been invited into a history bigger than the screen. The mood of the film is another area where the director absolutely nails it. It walks this tightrope between comedy and drama and never slips. You get these laugh-out-loud scenes where Joe is trying to chop onions under the judgmental glare of 5 grandmothers, or trying to figure out the difference between parsley and cilantro, and then without warning you get a scene where someone shares a deeply personal story about a child they lost or a love they never confessed. And it works because the director has set the tone so well. There's a safety net of emotional authenticity that catches every fall. Shot composition is also handled with an eye for warmth and intimacy. You'll notice the kitchen is always shot like a sacred space. Tight frames, close-ups of hands preparing food, steam rising from pots, reflections in windows, light catching the dust in the air. It's all very tactile, very sensory. You can almost smell the sauce just by watching the screen. And the group scenes where everyone is gathered around the table are staged with the kind of natural choreography that makes you feel like you're sitting right there. Plates clinking, voices overlapping, people reaching across the table. It's messy, it's real, and the camera knows when to pull back and let it all unfold. The direction also knows how to shift gears when it needs to. There's a fantastic montage in the second act where Joe is finally getting the hang of things, and it's edited like a culinary training sequence mixed with a spiritual awakening. The music swells, the shots are faster, and there's this rhythm to it that feels almost like dance. Then later, when the conflict ramps up, when the community restaurant is threatened, the director tightens everything. The shots become more still, the humor pulls back, and suddenly there's tension. But it's not tension built on melodrama, it's rooted in the emotional investment you've developed through the gentle pacing and character work from earlier scenes. Another brilliant move is how the director uses silence. Not in the artsy abstract way, but in real human moments. A character sitting alone at a table after a long day, a grandmother gazing at an old recipe book, a scene where no words are spoken but you feel everything. These quiet beats hit harder because the director has earned them. They don't feel like filler, they feel like breathing room, like reflection points that let you take in everything you've just seen. This is one of those films where the direction isn't flashy but it's deeply intentional. Every movement, every angle, every emotional beat has been carefully placed like ingredients in a treasured family recipe. It's not trying to impress you with technique, it's trying to make you feel something true and lasting. And the director doesn't just guide the story, they welcome you into it, make you feel part of the world, as if you too are standing in that kitchen apron, on heart wide open, ready to discover something you didn't even know you needed. Let's get into the delicious visual feast that is the cinematography of Nonnas 2025, because if the story is the recipe and the performances are the ingredients, then the cinematography is the presentation that makes you say wow before you've even had your first bite. This movie looks like it was shot inside a memory. Every frame feels like a postcard from a place you've never been but instantly recognize. It's cozy, it's rich, it's layered with warmth, and it uses light, shadow and movement in ways that don't just support the story, they elevate it like a sprinkle of fresh herbs right at the end. Let's start with the lighting. The whole film is bathed in a kind of golden glow that makes everything feel nostalgic and slightly magical. It's not glossy, it's soft, like late afternoon sunlight coming through lace curtains. The kind of lighting that makes flour floating in the air look like snow and gives even a chipped teacup a sense of history. The kitchen scenes in particular feel like visual poetry. The way light hits a simmering pot or catches on the sheen of olive oil or the glint of a knife slicing through fresh herbs. It's sensory cinematography. You don't just see what's happening, you feel it. The lighting becomes emotional. When the mood shifts, the light shifts too. A moment of conflict might be cast in cooler tones, while a moment of reunion glows a little brighter, a little warmer, like the characters are literally stepping back into the light. Camera angles are used with precision, but never in a way that screams, "Look at me." There's a humility to how the camera moves through the space, as if it knows it's been invited into something sacred and doesn't want to intrude. Often the camera sits just outside the action, like an observer at the kitchen table watching the chaos unfold. It doesn't always follow a single character. Sometimes it lingers on an empty chair or a plate of untouched food or the slow closing of a kitchen cabinet. These small choices add layers. They create atmosphere without dialogue. And when the story needs energy, the camera knows how to move. During moments of comedy, the camera will cut quickly, follow gestures, zoom in just enough to catch a raised eyebrow or an exaggerated expression. It becomes playful without being cartoonish. And during emotional scenes, the camera holds still, lets the weight of the moment sit there breathing with the characters. The restraint is powerful. Framing is where things get especially tasty. The cinematographer clearly has a love for symmetry and composition because every shot feels balanced even when the scene is chaotic. There's a sense of order in the way the kitchen is shown, the way characters are placed around a table or framed in a doorway. It's not just beautiful, it's symbolic. You can tell who's on the outside of a moment just by where they're standing. There's a scene where Joe is framed through a window while the Nonnas laugh inside, and you instantly feel his distance, not because anyone says it but because of the visual language. Another scene shows a Nonna standing in a doorway, half in shadow half in light, and it tells you everything about her internal conflict in that moment without a single word. There are visually striking moments that stay with you long after the credits roll. A slow-motion shot of flour exploding into the air during an intense baking scene, like a culinary battle cry. A quiet shot of a photo on the wall slowly zooming in while a character talks about a memory. A dinner scene where the camera circles the table, showing every face, every reaction as laughter builds into something deeper. And then there's a breathtaking moment where the power goes out and the kitchen is lit only by candles and moonlight. The scene becomes this soft dance of shadows and silhouettes, and you feel like you're watching something sacred unfold. It's beautiful, not in a showy way but in a way that makes your heart swell. And let's not forget the use of space. The cinematography turns the cramped kitchen into a kingdom. It makes the little dining area feel like a cathedral of human connection. It captures the texture of worn-out tiles and the shine of polished tomatoes. It celebrates imperfection. It invites you to find beauty in the details. A close-up of gnarled hands shaping dough, a wide shot of the whole crew crowded into one corner of the room arguing over how long to bake something. These shots aren't just pretty, they're meaningful. They tell a story. The cinematography in Nonnas 2025 doesn't just show you what's happening, it invites you into the experience. It makes you a guest at the table, a silent participant in the lives of these characters. It doesn't rely on flashy tricks or overly dramatic visuals. It trusts the story and lets the camera highlight the humanity, the tradition, the laughter, and the love. Watching this film is like flipping through a family photo album where every image is alive and every frame tells a story of its own. Let's slice into the editing and pacing of Nonnas 2025 because this movie moves with the rhythm of a big family meal. Sometimes it's fast and loud and full of overlapping voices and clinking dishes, and other times it slows down to a hush so you can savor the flavors. The editing in this film isn't just about cutting from scene to scene. It's like a recipe in motion, each beat carefully measured, each transition blended, like ingredients coming together to create something warm, textured, and deliciously human. From the very first few minutes, the editing tells you exactly what kind of journey you're in for. It opens gently with longer takes, soft fades, and a deliberate pace that lets you get comfortable in the world. It's like the film is saying, sit down, take your coat off, smell the sauce. You're not being rushed into anything, and that patience pays off because it gives the audience time to bond with the characters and feel the rhythm of their lives. There are no jumpy cuts or flashy tricks in the beginning, just clean, smooth transitions that give the story room to breathe. It's cozy cinema, and the editing makes sure of it. But don't think for a second that this film moves slowly in a dull way. No. When the comedy hits, when the kitchen erupts into a flurry of activity, when Joe tries to keep up with 5 different nonnas giving 5 different instructions, the editing jumps right into the action. Suddenly the pace picks up, but not in a jarring way. It becomes a carefully controlled chaos. Quick cuts mirror the mess. You get flashes of boiling pots, flying spoons, passionate hand gestures, and someone yelling that the sauce needs more salt. These scenes are fast, but never confusing. The editor knows exactly when to switch perspectives, when to cut on the beat of the music, when to let a punchline land, and when to linger for the reaction. It's all timed like a well-rehearsed kitchen crew during the dinner rush. One of the most satisfying aspects of the editing is how transitions are handled. There's a lot of jumping between past and present, especially when the nonnas tell stories about their lives. The editor doesn't just throw you from one time period to another. Instead, there's this soft bleed between scenes. A voiceover will start over the present-day footage, and as it continues, the image shifts gradually into a memory, like turning a page in an old scrapbook. It's gentle and effective, and it creates an emotional bridge between generations. You never feel lost in the timeline because the transitions are so thoughtful. Every flashback feels like a shared secret being passed down like a recipe. Now let's talk about pacing, because this is where things get really interesting. The film doesn't follow a traditional 3-act roller coaster. It flows more like a season of life. There are moments of high energy like the big cooking competition or the chaotic family dinner, but they're balanced with quiet, reflective scenes. And the pacing reflects real life. Sometimes things move fast. People change plans, emotions erupt. Then things slow down. Someone has to sit with a memory. A choice has to be considered. A truth has to sink in. The film understands that not every emotional moment needs to be scored with dramatic music and a close-up. Sometimes a pause, a silence, a held breath is all you need. The pacing respects those silences. There's a beautifully edited montage in the middle of the film where Joe finally starts to get into the rhythm of things. It's quick and playful, and you can feel the shift in him just through the cuts. He burns a pan, cut to him cleaning it, cut to a nonna shaking her head, cut to him finally getting the dish right. No dialogue, just rhythm and expression and perfectly timed editing. It's a visual story of growth and confidence that lands better than any speech could. And the way the editor strings those moments together gives it a rising energy that makes you want to cheer for him by the end of it. Even emotionally heavy moments are edited with a light but steady hand. There's a scene late in the film where 2 characters have a quiet conversation in a nearly empty kitchen. The editor lets the scene breathe. No cuts, just a slow push in as the conversation deepens. And when it's time to transition out, it's not abrupt. It's smooth, like exhaling after holding something in. The rhythm of the editing mirrors the rhythm of human connection. And that's what makes it so powerful. The film never overstays its welcome in any scene. You're in and out of moments just long enough to feel what you need to feel without dragging. And when something big is about to happen, you feel it. The pacing tightens, the edits become sharper, the music swells, and suddenly you're right in the middle of it. Whether it's laughter or tears or an unexpected twist, the editing helps you ride the emotional wave without ever feeling like you're being pushed or pulled too hard. So if you're wondering how a film about nonnas and gnocchi can feel like a dance and a diary and a group hug all rolled into one, look no further than the editing and pacing. It's a masterclass in knowing when to speed things up, when to slow things down, and how to carry the heart of a story through every cut and transition. It's not just about what happens next. It's about how it happens and how it makes you feel as you move through it. Like any good meal, the timing is everything, and this film serves it just right. Alright, let's take a deeper dive into the soundtrack and score of Nonnas 2025, because the music here is not just a background element, it is an essential character all its own, shaping the atmosphere and emotional landscape in ways that quietly but powerfully draw you into the story from start to finish. This film understands that music is more than just sound, it's a language of feeling and memory, and the soundtrack and score speak that language fluently throughout the film. The soundtrack works like a secret ingredient, added in just the right amounts throughout the movie, enhancing every scene without ever overwhelming the narrative or stealing focus from the characters. From the very beginning you realize this is no generic or forgettable background music. Instead, the score blends traditional Italian melodies with modern sounds and textures, creating a unique soundscape that feels both timeless and fresh. It's as if the music itself is a bridge that connects the past and present, the old world and the new, just like the Nonnas and Joe's journey through the film. You hear rustic mandolins and accordions that evoke images of sun-drenched Italian countryside and lively village festivals, but these are layered with contemporary orchestral elements and subtle electronic touches, giving the soundtrack a lively and evolving personality. One of the most impressive qualities of the music is how perfectly it matches the emotional rhythm of the story without ever being too obvious or heavy-handed. When the Nonnas are busy dishing out their advice and playful teasing, the music bounces along with their energy, light-hearted, playful and full of joy. It feels like a cheerful dance beneath their banter, making the scenes sparkle with warmth and humor. Then as the story shifts into more serious and intimate moments, the score gently pulls back, focusing on soft piano melodies or tender strings that give the emotions space to breathe and settle in your heart. It's a beautiful contrast that lets the soundtrack support the narrative without ever overpowering it. Silence also plays a clever and important role in the film's sound design. There are many moments when the music disappears completely and the only sounds you hear are the natural noises of life in the kitchen, the chopping of vegetables, the bubbling of sauce, the quiet breathing of characters. These silences are far from empty. They create a sense of intimacy and presence, allowing the audience to feel fully immersed in the world and the characters' experiences. The absence of music in these moments makes the return of the score all the more powerful, like a warm embrace or a gentle nudge at just the right moment. Recurring musical motifs appear throughout the film, acting like emotional bookmarks that link scenes and deepen the story. There is a particular melody connected to the Nonnas' shared history and heritage that first appears softly in flashbacks and memories and then returns in fuller, richer forms as the characters reconnect with their roots and each other. This motif is subtle but incredibly effective because it gives the music a narrative role beyond simply setting mood. It reminds you that the past is alive and present in every choice the characters make and every emotion they feel. It is like a musical thread stitching the story together. Several standout compositions deserve special mention for how they perfectly capture the spirit of key moments. There is a joyful, triumphant theme that swells during the scene where Joe finally masters the signature dish. It feels like an orchestra cheering him on, celebrating his growth and achievement. The music is uplifting but never cheesy or over the top. It strikes just the right balance between sincerity and excitement. On the other end of the spectrum, there are the quieter, more understated pieces that play during heartfelt conversations or moments of reflection. These tracks are beautifully restrained, using gentle instrumentation to wrap the performances in a soft emotional glow that pulls you in without distracting from the actors. The combination of traditional Italian instruments such as mandolins, accordions, and classical guitars with modern orchestral and subtle electronic elements is a masterstroke that adds depth and authenticity to the score. It evokes the culture and heritage of the characters while making the music feel current and alive. This fusion perfectly mirrors the story itself, which is about honoring tradition while embracing change and new beginnings. The soundtrack becomes an evolving character in its own right, reflecting the emotional journey of the film. What really stands out is how the music works hand in hand with the film's pacing. During the fast-paced comedic scenes in the kitchen where chaos and laughter reign, the music picks up energy and tempo, mirroring the action and helping keep the momentum lively and fun. During the slower, quieter moments, the score pulls back, giving space for silence and reflection, creating a natural ebb and flow that keeps the audience emotionally engaged without feeling manipulated or overwhelmed. The music supports the story's rhythm like a heartbeat pulsing beneath the surface. In short, the soundtrack and score of Nonnas 2025 are like the perfect sauce that ties the whole dish together. They add flavor, warmth, depth, and emotion without ever overpowering the story. The music makes you feel the joy, the nostalgia, the tension, and the tenderness at every turn. It is not just heard, it is felt like a pulse running through the heart of the film, making every scene richer, more alive, and unforgettable. The way the music interacts with the story, the characters, and the emotions creates a seamless experience that stays with you long after the credits roll. Nonnas 2025 is a film that might seem simple on the surface with all its laughter, food, and kitchen chaos, but underneath, it is stirring up some seriously rich and meaningful themes that simmer quietly throughout the story. The movie does not shout its messages loudly or force them upon you. Instead, it gently folds them into the everyday moments that make you think without even realizing you are thinking. It is like a perfectly seasoned dish that sneaks in unexpected flavors and leaves you wondering what made it so memorable long after you have finished watching. One of the biggest themes bubbling just beneath the surface is the idea of family. But not just family in the traditional sense of people related by blood. This film explores family as a living, breathing community that nourishes us in many different ways. It shows how family can be messy, loud, contradictory, and full of old grudges, but it is also where love lives in the small gestures like sharing a meal or exchanging a knowing glance across a crowded kitchen. The film does not romanticize family life or pretend it is perfect. Instead, it shows family in all its imperfect glory, and that honesty is refreshing. You get the sense that family is not about being perfect but about showing up again and again, forgiving, arguing, laughing, and sometimes just sitting in silence together. Closely connected to that is the theme of tradition versus change. The Nonnas are living embodiments of heritage. They are keepers of recipes, stories, and ways of life that have been passed down through many generations. Joe, the outsider trying to find his place in this whirlwind of culture and tradition, represents the new generation. He grapples with how to respect the past while making it his own. The film does not treat this tension as a problem to be solved or a battle to be won. Instead, it shows this tension as a dance to be navigated with care and respect. It invites you to think about how we all carry pieces of the past inside us and how those pieces shape who we are without fully defining or limiting us. There is also a powerful undercurrent throughout the film about identity and belonging. Joe's journey is about more than just learning to cook. It is about finding where he fits in a world that often feels overwhelming and unfamiliar. Through the Nonnas and their kitchen, he discovers that belonging is not about fitting perfectly into a mold or meeting all expectations. Instead, it is about being accepted and accepting others in return, flaws and all. The film encourages you to reflect on your own search for connection and how sometimes that connection is found in the most unexpected places, through shared laughter, in learning a recipe, or in a stubborn refusal to give up. Another theme that sneaks into the story like a spice you did not expect is resilience. The characters have faced hardships, losses, and disappointments, but they keep showing up with humor, determination, and strength. The Nonnas, in particular, are fierce, funny, and unbreakable in a way that feels inspiring without ever becoming preachy or heavy-handed. Their strength does not come from grand heroic gestures. Instead, it comes from the everyday courage to keep living, loving, and cooking. The film celebrates this kind of quiet resilience that often gets overlooked but is truly the backbone of life. Throughout all of this, food itself is more than just a backdrop or a prop. It is a language and a powerful symbol. Cooking and sharing meals represent connection, tradition, creativity, and care. The film explores how food carries memory and emotion, how a single dish can hold a lifetime of stories and feelings. It reminds you that sometimes the most profound things are communicated not through words but through a shared table and a heartfelt recipe passed down from one generation to the next. The movie also plays with the idea of humor as a way to cope with challenges and connect with others. The comedy is not just there for laughs. It serves as a tool the characters use to navigate tension, express affection, and lighten difficult moments. The humor is sharp and sometimes chaotic but always affectionate. It shows how laughter and lightness can be powerful forces even in challenging times. What is truly impressive about the way Nonnas 2025 handles all these themes is how seamlessly they are woven into the fabric of the story. You never feel like the film is lecturing or forcing its messages on you. Instead, it invites you in gently and lets you discover these ideas naturally as you get to know the characters and their world. It makes you think but also makes you feel. The themes linger like the scent of fresh basil in a warm kitchen, subtle but unforgettable. So, Nonnas 2025 does much more than tell a story about cooking and family. It serves up a rich platter of ideas about life, connection, tradition, identity, resilience, and humor. It is a film that leaves you full in more ways than one, with thoughts to chew on and feelings that stay with you long after the last scene fades away. Nonnas 2025 takes a refreshingly restrained approach to visual effects and CGI, choosing to integrate them so naturally into the film's world that most viewers might not even consciously notice them. Instead of dazzling the audience with flashy spectacles or overt digital wizardry, the visual effects team focuses on subtle enhancements that support the film's intimate, heartfelt story. This decision to keep the effects low-key is a brilliant one because it helps maintain the authenticity and warmth that define the movie's tone. From the very first scenes, you get the feeling that the film's creators wanted every frame to feel lived in and tangible. Practical effects play a major role in achieving this. Real kitchen spaces filled with actual cooking utensils, fresh ingredients, and tangible heat from stoves create an immersive experience that grounds the film in reality. Watching the characters handle food, chopping vegetables, stirring sauces, tasting spices feels immediate and real. These moments are tactile and sensory, inviting the audience not just to see but almost to smell and taste the scenes unfolding on screen. Practical effects here are not just technical necessities, they are essential to making the film's world believable and engaging. But no film can do everything with practical effects alone, and that is where the digital elements come in. The CGI in Nonnas 2025 is employed with great care and purpose. Instead of dominating the frame, it enhances elements that would be difficult to capture practically or would otherwise limit the visual storytelling. For example, subtle enhancements to lighting, like sunlight filtering through windows or the warm glow of a kitchen in the early morning, are digitally polished to give a soft, inviting atmosphere that feels like a warm embrace. This kind of enhancement adds emotional resonance without ever feeling artificial or distracting. In the bustling kitchen scenes where multiple characters move quickly, digital effects help extend the environment, making the space feel larger and more vibrant. They add depth to background elements, making the kitchen a dynamic, living place rather than a static set. The CGI here blends so seamlessly with the physical set pieces that you never question what is real and what is enhanced. This blending is a testament to the skill of the visual effects team, who know when to step back and let the story breathe. Another area where visual effects shine is in the portrayal of memories, flashbacks, or emotional shifts. These sequences often have a slightly dreamlike quality that is achieved through soft glows, muted colors, or gentle blurring around the edges of the frame. These effects serve a dual purpose. They signal to the audience that the scene is not part of the present timeline and they evoke a sense of nostalgia, warmth, or emotional reflection. These visual flourishes are never overwhelming but instead offer a poetic touch that deepens the viewer's connection to the characters' inner lives. Transitions and montages in Nonnas 2025 also benefit from carefully crafted visual effects. Rather than quick cuts or flashy graphics that might jar the viewer, the film employs smooth fades, delicate light leaks, and tasteful color shifts. These artistic choices maintain the gentle, heartfelt rhythm of the film, allowing the audience to move effortlessly from one scene or emotional moment to the next. The visual effects here act like a subtle conductor, guiding the viewer through the narrative with grace and style. The way visual effects and CGI are used in Nonnas 2025 speaks volumes about the filmmakers' respect for their story and characters. They understand that effects are tools to enhance storytelling, not distractions or ends in themselves. The restrained use of digital enhancements preserves the film's authenticity and emotional core, allowing the warmth, humor, and humanity of the story to shine through without interruption. When you watch Nonnas 2025, the visual effects feel like invisible threads woven into the rich tapestry of the film. They support the storytelling without calling attention to themselves, much like the quiet, steady presence of a good friend who helps without making a fuss. The seamless integration of practical and digital effects creates a world so inviting and real that you can almost reach out and touch the worn wooden tables or inhale the fragrant aromas of a bubbling sauce. In the end, the visual effects and CGI in Nonnas 2025 are a perfect example of how technology, when used thoughtfully and with restraint, can elevate a film's atmosphere and storytelling without overpowering its heart. They enhance the mood, deepen the immersion, and add layers of subtle beauty, making the film not just a story you watch but an experience you feel deeply and remember long after the credits roll. Nonnas 2025 truly shines when it comes to set design and locations, crafting spaces that feel so authentic and full of life that you almost expect to smell the rich aromas of simmering sauces and freshly baked bread just by looking at them. The film's production design is a masterclass in creating a world that feels lived in, warm, and bustling with personality, instantly drawing the audience into the story's heart and soul. Every setting, from the cozy kitchens to the vibrant streets, is packed with details that tell their own stories and add incredible depth to the film's atmosphere. The kitchen spaces in the film are nothing short of magical. They are the real beating hearts of the story, overflowing with character and charm. Instead of sterile or overly polished environments, these kitchens are busy, cluttered, and downright inviting. You see well-worn wooden tables scarred with years of chopping and mixing, pots and pans hanging from hooks, stacks of old cookbooks with dog-eared pages, and colorful bowls filled with fresh ingredients waiting to be transformed into delicious meals. These spaces are designed so thoughtfully that they almost become characters themselves, each telling stories about the people who inhabit them and their shared history. The warmth of the kitchen sets perfectly reflects the warmth of the Nonnas' personalities, creating a visual harmony that feels genuine and heartfelt. Beyond the kitchens, the film's use of locations helps paint a vivid picture of the community surrounding the characters. Whether it is the lively market streets with vendors shouting and neighbors chatting, the quaint outdoor cafes where characters share quiet moments, or the narrow alleys that hint at the neighborhood's rich cultural tapestry, each location is carefully chosen and meticulously dressed to immerse the audience fully. The production design team has clearly put great care into sourcing authentic props and details that make these places feel real and grounded in everyday life. From weathered signage and hand-painted murals to little touches like old bicycles leaning against walls or potted plants on windowsills, the locations brim with life and texture. What makes the set design especially compelling is how it supports the story on a deeper level. The spaces do more than just look good, they reflect the themes of family, tradition, and community that run through the film. The tight, bustling kitchens symbolize the closeness and sometimes chaotic energy of the Nonnas' relationships. The market scenes showcase the lively, interconnected world they live in, full of culture and history. Even quiet, intimate spaces like a small living room or a tucked-away garden become meaningful as places where characters connect, reflect, and grow. The design choices guide the audience's emotions without ever being heavy-handed or obvious. Another fun aspect of the set design is how it subtly contrasts different generations and characters. Joe's entry into the Nonnas' world is visually marked by how he moves from his own more sterile or modern environment into these rich, sensory-filled spaces. This contrast not only highlights his outsider status but also visually underscores the film's exploration of tradition meeting change. Watching Joe navigate these spaces feels like stepping into a new culture, and the design team's attention to detail makes that transition feel authentic and engaging. Props in the film deserve a special shout-out because they add so much personality and realism. The kitchen tools, family heirlooms, personal mementos, and even small everyday items like coffee mugs or handwritten notes all feel like they have histories of their own. These little details invite the audience to slow down and really soak in the environment, creating a fully immersive experience that goes beyond just watching a story unfold. It feels like you are a guest invited into a real family's home rather than just an audience observing from the outside. The color palette used in the set design also deserves mention. Warm earth tones, rich reds, soft yellows, and natural wood finishes dominate the scenes, evoking feelings of comfort and nostalgia. These colors work in harmony with the lighting and costumes to create a cohesive visual identity that perfectly matches the film's tone. The result is a world that feels cozy, welcoming, and full of life, exactly the kind of place where stories about food, family, and tradition come alive. In short, the set design and locations in Nonnas 2025 do more than just provide a backdrop for the story. They breathe life into the narrative, making every scene visually compelling and emotionally resonant. The attention to detail, authentic props, and thoughtful design choices create a believable world that invites the audience to step inside and stay a while, soaking up the rich textures, vibrant energy, and heartfelt spirit that make this film so special. Nonnas 2025 really knows how to deliver when it comes to dialogue and script, blending sharp wit with heartfelt emotion in a way that feels completely natural and effortlessly engaging. The conversations flow like real life, sometimes quick and playful, other times slow and full of meaning, and the writing manages to capture the warmth, humor, and occasional tension that naturally comes with family dynamics. The script never feels forced or overly polished, Instead, it feels like you are eavesdropping on real people who genuinely care about each other but also know how to tease and challenge one another in the best way possible. One of the most refreshing things about the dialogue in this film is how it balances humor with emotional weight. You'll find yourself laughing at the quick exchanges and clever one-liners that fly between characters, especially the Nonnas, who have no shortage of sharp tongues and quick comebacks. Their banter is lively and often hilarious, full of playful jabs that show their deep familiarity and affection for one another. The script uses humor not just to entertain but to reveal character and build relationships, making those moments feel grounded and meaningful rather than just for laughs. But the film also knows exactly when to slow down and let the dialogue carry real emotional power. There are quiet, tender scenes where the characters open up about their fears, regrets, and hopes. The writing shines brightest in these moments, offering lines that cut straight to the heart without ever feeling melodramatic. These exchanges reveal layers of vulnerability and humanity, making the characters feel complex and deeply relatable. You get the sense that every word is carefully chosen to reflect the inner lives of the characters, and the script allows room for silence and pauses that make those emotions linger on the screen. Standout lines in the film often come from the Nonnas themselves, whose wisdom and sass make them unforgettable. Their words are peppered with traditional sayings, heartfelt advice, and blunt truths that stick with you long after the scene ends. There's a wonderful authenticity to the way they speak, mixing colloquial language with moments of poetic insight. The script gives them a unique voice that feels distinct and powerful, anchoring the film in its cultural roots while also making the dialogue universally appealing. Joe's dialogue is also notable because it reflects his journey from outsider to part of the family. At first, his words are sometimes awkward or hesitant, showing his unfamiliarity with the Nonnas' world. But as he grows closer to them, his speech becomes more confident and infused with the warmth and humor that characterize the group. This progression in his dialogue is subtle but effective, helping the audience track his transformation and deepening his connection with the other characters. The script does an excellent job of weaving food into the conversations, making meals and cooking not just background elements but central parts of the storytelling. Dialogue about recipes, ingredients, and shared meals becomes a way for characters to express love, conflict, and tradition. These food-related conversations feel natural and never forced, adding richness and flavor to the script that enhances the film's themes and atmosphere. One of the most engaging aspects of the dialogue is how it captures the rhythm and cadence of everyday speech. The script allows for interruptions, unfinished sentences, and overlapping talk, making scenes feel lively and realistic. This approach draws you into the group dynamics, making you feel like a fly on the wall during family gatherings or bustling kitchen moments. Overall, the dialogue and script in Nonnas 2025 are full of life and personality. They combine humor, heart, and cultural flavor in a way that feels fresh and genuine. Whether it's a sharp retort from one of the Nonnas, a quiet confession, or a lively debate over the best way to make a sauce, the writing keeps you engaged and invested in the characters and their journey. It is a vibrant and memorable script that adds layers of meaning and entertainment to every scene, making the film as much about the words spoken as the actions unfolding on screen. Nonnas 2025 plays with its genre in a way that feels both familiar and surprisingly fresh, delivering a delightful mix of heartfelt family drama with generous doses of humor and warmth that keep the story engaging from start to finish. At first glance, you might expect it to follow the usual tropes of a family-centered food movie, the kind where tradition clashes with modernity, where recipes are almost sacred, and where relationships simmer like a slow-cooked sauce. But what makes this film stand out is how it gently subverts some of those conventions while still embracing the core elements that make this genre so beloved. The movie knows how to lean into the emotional beats that viewers expect. It delivers moments of tension, love, and conflict that feel authentic rather than cliched. But it also sidesteps the usual melodrama that can sometimes weigh down family dramas. Instead of over-the-top confrontations or overly sentimental speeches, the film opts for subtlety and nuance. The conflicts unfold through witty exchanges and small, meaningful gestures rather than grand declarations, making the emotional journey feel grounded and relatable. This restraint makes the story more powerful because you feel like you are witnessing real relationships with all their complexities, rather than watching characters perform for the camera. Humor is a key ingredient in how Nonnas 2025 executes its genre. The film uses comedy not just to lighten the mood but to deepen character interactions and bring out the quirks and charms of its cast. The Nonnas themselves are sources of constant amusement with their sharp tongues, old-school wisdom, and the way they lovingly roast each other. This humor is never cheap or forced, it flows naturally from the characters and the situations they find themselves in, making the laughter feel earned and genuine. The balance between humor and drama is well calibrated, so the film never feels like it is trying too hard to be funny or too heavy to be a light-hearted watch. While the film fits comfortably within the family drama and food genre, it also brings fresh ideas that keep it from feeling predictable. For instance, the focus on the cultural heritage of the Nonnas and the way food acts as a bridge between generations adds a rich layer of meaning. The film explores how traditions are maintained, adapted, and sometimes challenged in a modern world. This thematic depth gives the genre a new twist, moving beyond just the surface-level warmth of shared meals to explore identity, memory, and change. The pacing of the film also reflects thoughtful genre execution. It avoids the frantic rush of many modern movies, choosing instead a measured rhythm that allows relationships to breathe and moments to linger. This slower pace works perfectly with the genre's emphasis on connection and reflection. It lets the audience savor scenes like they would a carefully prepared meal slowly, with attention to detail and appreciation for the small pleasures. In terms of suspense or tension, Nonnas 2025 does not rely on high-stakes drama or external threats. The tension comes from the very human struggles within the family and community. Whether it is navigating generational differences, confronting personal doubts, or facing the uncertainty of change, the film keeps you engaged through its emotional honesty rather than flashy plot twists or action sequences. This grounded approach adds a refreshing authenticity to the genre, proving that not all drama needs to be loud or explosive to be compelling. One could say the film also plays with the idea of heroism in a subtle way. Instead of superheroes or grand gestures, the heroes here are everyday people who show courage through love, resilience, and the simple act of coming together around a shared table. This choice enriches the genre by offering a different kind of strength, one rooted in community and tradition rather than spectacle. Overall, Nonnas 2025 respects the conventions of its genre while skillfully weaving in originality and heart. It strikes a lovely balance between humor and drama, tradition and change, lightness and depth. This nuanced genre execution means that while the film feels comfortably familiar, it also surprises and delights, inviting audiences to enjoy a story that is both warm and thought-provoking, playful and sincere, classic and refreshingly new all at once. Nonnas 2025 is much more than just a warm family story with delicious food at its center. It quietly and cleverly weaves in social and cultural commentary that gives the film a surprising depth and relevance. The way it handles contemporary issues and cultural identity feels effortless and natural, never hitting you over the head but instead gently inviting you to think about the complexities of modern life through the lens of tradition, family, and community. One of the most compelling aspects of the film's social commentary is how it explores the tension between preserving cultural heritage and adapting to a changing world. The Nonnas represent a rich tradition passed down through generations, with recipes, rituals, and values that define their identity. But these traditions exist within a broader, evolving society, and the film shows how the characters negotiate this balance. It highlights the challenge of keeping old ways alive while making room for new ideas and influences. This theme resonates widely, especially in today's fast-paced, globalized world where cultural roots can feel both grounding and confining. The film also touches on themes of immigration and belonging, subtly reflecting the experiences of many families who navigate life between different cultures. The Nonnas world is steeped in heritage, yet the younger generation and newcomers bring fresh perspectives and questions about identity. The film does not make these issues the main plot but incorporates them into the story in a way that feels authentic and respectful. It acknowledges the complexities without resorting to stereotypes or heavy-handed messaging. Another layer of social commentary comes from the portrayal of gender roles and family dynamics. The film celebrates the strength and influence of the Nonnas, highlighting women as central figures who hold the family and traditions together. Their resilience, humor, and wisdom shine throughout, challenging traditional expectations in subtle but powerful ways. At the same time, the film shows the vulnerabilities and struggles they face, painting a realistic picture that avoids clichés. The men in the story, including Joe, are portrayed with nuance as they interact with this matriarchal energy, offering a balanced look at family relationships. Nonnas 2025 also engages with ideas about community and connection in a world that often feels fragmented. The bustling market scenes, shared meals, and neighborhood interactions are not just backdrops but acts of resistance against isolation and disconnection. The film celebrates the power of coming together, sharing stories, and supporting each other as vital to cultural survival and personal happiness. This commentary feels especially relevant in times when technology and modern life can sometimes pull people apart. What is remarkable is how all these themes are woven seamlessly into the narrative and character interactions. The film never feels preachy or like it's trying to deliver a lecture. Instead, the commentary emerges naturally through the characters' lives, their conversations, and the choices they make. The humor and warmth that permeate the film soften the edges of these serious topics, making them approachable and engaging rather than heavy or overwhelming. The film's treatment of sensitive topics like generational conflict, cultural preservation, and belonging is handled with a light touch but clear empathy. It shows respect for different perspectives and the messiness of real life, avoiding simple answers or easy resolutions. This complexity makes the social commentary richer and invites the audience to reflect on their own experiences and beliefs. Overall, Nonnas 2025 uses its story as a subtle but effective platform to explore important social and cultural issues. It does so in a way that feels like a natural part of the film's world, enhancing the emotional resonance and giving the audience something to chew on beneath the surface. The film's ability to balance humor, heart, and thoughtful commentary makes its messages all the more impactful and memorable. Nonnas 2025 has this incredible way of grabbing hold of the audience's emotions from the very first scene and not letting go until the credits roll. It's like the film sets up this warm, inviting world that feels so familiar and comforting that you immediately want to be part of it. Whether you come for the food, the family drama, or just a good story, the film makes sure you're emotionally hooked in ways that are both subtle and powerful. Right away, the film knows how to make you laugh with its lively banter and playful dynamics among the Nonnas. Their witty comebacks and sharp tongues spark plenty of moments that feel genuinely funny without ever being forced. You find yourself smiling along, recognizing the kind of family teasing and warmth that rings true no matter where you're from. These laughs aren't just for fun, they create a bond between the audience and the characters, making the Nonnas feel like people you already know and want to cheer for. But then the film will flip the mood in an instant, dropping you into quieter, more tender moments that pull at the heartstrings. There are scenes filled with raw vulnerability where the characters reveal their fears, regrets, and hopes. These moments hit deep because they feel earned, built on the foundation of relationships we've come to care about. You might find yourself caught off guard by how much these scenes resonate, evoking emotions that linger long after you've stopped watching. It's this balance of laughter and tears that keeps the emotional experience rich and layered, never predictable or one note. Nonnas 2025 also excels at creating moments of excitement and anticipation, even without the typical action or suspense you might expect from other genres. The tension often comes from everyday life. Will a recipe come together perfectly? Will a family secret be revealed? Can old wounds be healed? These stakes might seem small in the grand scheme of things, but the film makes them feel huge because of the emotional weight behind them. You're drawn in, rooting for the characters to succeed and find happiness, and that emotional investment keeps you engaged throughout. What's really interesting is how the film invites viewers to think and reflect beyond the surface story. There's enough depth in the characters and themes that encourages discussion long after the movie ends. Whether it's talking about the role of tradition in modern life, the challenges of family loyalty, or the simple joy of sharing a meal, the film sparks conversations that are meaningful and relatable. This kind of engagement goes beyond passive viewing, making Nonnas 2025 a film you might want to revisit to catch new details or revisit your favorite moments. Repeat viewings feel natural because there's so much going on beneath the surface. The rich character interactions, cultural nuances, and layered storytelling reward audiences who come back for a second or third time. Each viewing can bring new insights or simply the comfort of immersing yourself again in a world that feels like home. The film's emotional texture is complex enough to hold your interest without feeling overwhelming or overly complicated. There are also moments that can catch you by surprise, small shocks or revelations that change how you see the characters or their relationships. These moments add to the film's emotional rollercoaster, keeping you alert and invested. They remind you that even in a story centered on family and food, life is full of unexpected twists and turns, and the film embraces that unpredictability with grace and honesty. In essence, Nonnas 2025 is an emotional feast that serves up a little bit of everything. It makes you laugh, it makes you feel, it makes you think, and it makes you want to stay connected to the characters long after the story ends. That ability to resonate on so many levels is what keeps audiences engaged, entertained, and coming back for more. Nonnas 2025 steps into the world of family dramas and food-centered stories with a confident stride, carving out its own unique flavor while still paying homage to films that have come before it. When you start thinking about movies in this genre, titles like Big Night, Like Water for Chocolate, or even The 100-Foot Journey might pop into your head. These films share a love for food as a storytelling device and celebrate cultural heritage through the kitchen and the dining table. Nonnas 2025 fits right into that lineage but manages to stand apart thanks to its vibrant characters, fresh humor, and a distinctly warm, almost palpable sense of community that feels less polished and more lived in. Unlike some films that lean heavily into either drama or comedy, Nonnas 2025 effortlessly balances both, creating a blend that feels authentic and inviting. If you're familiar with the director's previous work, you might notice a shift here, a move toward a more intimate and grounded storytelling style. This film doesn't chase big spectacle or grand gestures. Instead, it focuses on the subtle moments that reveal character and culture. Compared to the director's past films, which might have explored broader themes or employed more stylized techniques, Nonnas 2025 embraces simplicity and heartfelt connection, making the story feel very close to home. In terms of formula, the film respects the genre's conventions but isn't afraid to mix things up. Many family dramas about food fall into the trap of predictability, secret recipes, family feuds, emotional reconciliations, and Nonnas 2025 hits some of those familiar notes but adds a lively energy that keeps it from feeling stale. The Nonnas themselves bring a freshness that is hard to find in similar films. Their bold personalities and sharp humor inject a sense of unpredictability and fun that breaks up the expected emotional beats and keeps the audience on their toes. Compared to other food-related films, Nonnas 2025 places a stronger emphasis on cultural identity and intergenerational dynamics. While many movies showcase the food as a backdrop or a catalyst, here it's deeply woven into the characters' lives and the way they relate to one another. The film doesn't just show meals being cooked and eaten, it explores how those meals carry memory, tradition, and even resistance. This thematic depth elevates it beyond a simple feel-good food movie and gives it a richer narrative texture. If you're looking at the film in the context of the broader genre, it also stands out for its pacing and tone. It refuses to rush the emotional journeys or cut away from the quiet, everyday moments that reveal so much about family life. This slower, more deliberate pace may remind some viewers of indie films that prioritize character over plot, but Nonnas 2025 manages to keep things engaging with sharp dialogue, vivid personalities, and moments of genuine humor and surprise. In comparison to franchises or films that focus on big family sagas with sprawling casts and dramatic reveals, this movie feels more intimate and focused. It's less about epic family secrets and more about the everyday love and tensions that shape relationships. This narrower focus gives it a unique voice that feels both personal and universal. Overall, Nonnas 2025 feels like a fresh take on a beloved genre. It offers new energy through its characters, humor, and cultural richness while still feeling comfortably familiar enough to satisfy fans of family and food stories. Whether you are a long-time enthusiast of this kind of film or just discovering it, Nonnas 2025 brings something special to the table that makes it worth your attention. Nonnas 2025 is packed with symbolism and metaphors that quietly simmer beneath the surface, enriching the story and giving it a delicious complexity that rewards close attention. From the very first frame, the film uses everyday objects and recurring images to communicate deeper ideas about family, tradition, and change, turning ordinary moments into powerful storytelling tools. One of the most obvious and charming symbols throughout the film is food itself. It's not just about ingredients or recipes. Food acts as a metaphor for connection, memory, and identity. Each dish prepared by the Nonnas carries with it the weight of history and love. The act of cooking becomes a ritual that preserves the past and invites the future, symbolizing the delicate balance between holding on and letting go. When the characters share a meal, it's never just about eating, it's a silent conversation, a way to pass down stories, express care, and sometimes even to confront unspoken tensions. The kitchen feels like the heart of the film, a sacred space where the tangible and emotional blend seamlessly. The film also uses the recurring motif of hands, especially the hands of the Nonnas as they prepare food, tend gardens, or simply gesture while talking. These hands tell a story of labor, love, and resilience. Close-ups of wrinkled, skilled hands chopping vegetables or kneading dough highlight the passage of time and the care embedded in every gesture. Hands become a visual metaphor for legacy. What is crafted by one generation is passed to the next, carrying meaning beyond words. Another subtle but powerful symbol is the home itself. The Nonna's house, with its cozy kitchen, cluttered shelves, and faded photographs, represents a repository of memories and family history. It stands as a symbol of stability and belonging amid the changes swirling around the characters. The house's worn but welcoming feel suggests that while time marches on, some places hold the essence of who we are. The film contrasts this with scenes outside the home, busy markets, city streets, highlighting the tension between rootedness and the wider, sometimes impersonal world. Nature also plays a metaphorical role in Nonnas 2025. The garden where some ingredients are grown and the market where fresh produce is bought symbolize cycles of growth, renewal, and the seasons of life. These settings remind us that life, like cooking, follows rhythms that can be messy but are ultimately nourishing. The blooming plants and fresh herbs become subtle reminders of hope and continuity, while wilted leaves or empty spaces hint at loss and change. Visual cues are sprinkled throughout the film to reinforce these ideas. The warm color palette of reds, oranges, and earth tones evokes a sense of comfort and tradition, inviting the audience to feel the warmth of the family's world. Lighting often shifts to highlight emotional moments, soft glows during tender scenes or sharper contrasts when conflicts arise, using visual language to enhance mood without a single word spoken. Even small objects carry symbolic weight, like an old family cookbook passed down through generations. This book isn't just a collection of recipes, it represents heritage, the stories behind each dish, and the responsibility of carrying that legacy forward. When the cookbook changes hands or is referenced, it signals moments of transformation and connection between characters. Metaphors also appear in the characters' relationships. The Nonnas, with their fierce protection of tradition, symbolize the past, while the younger generation represents change and adaptation. The interactions between them become a dance of negotiation, where the past and future meet, clash, and eventually find harmony. This dynamic mirrors the larger theme of cultural continuity versus evolution. In some of the film's most poignant scenes, silence itself becomes a metaphor. Moments without dialogue let the audience soak in the unspoken feelings and tensions, emphasizing what words cannot capture. These pauses invite viewers to read between the lines and connect emotionally with the characters' inner lives. All these layers of symbolism and metaphor work together to create a film experience that is rich and textured. They deepen the themes of family, culture, and identity without ever feeling heavy-handed. Instead, they invite the audience to look closer, think deeper, and appreciate the artistry behind the storytelling. Nonnas 2025 uses these visual and narrative devices not just to decorate the story but to amplify its heart and meaning in ways that stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Nonnas 2025 is packed with symbolism and metaphors that quietly simmer beneath the surface, enriching the story and giving it a delicious complexity that rewards close attention. From the very first frame, the film uses everyday objects and recurring images to communicate deeper ideas about family, tradition, and change, turning ordinary moments into powerful storytelling tools. One of the most obvious and charming symbols throughout the film is food itself. It's not just about ingredients or recipes. Food acts as a metaphor for connection, memory, and identity. Each dish prepared by the Nonnas carries with it the weight of history and love. The act of cooking becomes a ritual that preserves the past and invites the future, symbolizing the delicate balance between holding on and letting go. When the characters share a meal, it's never just about eating, it's a silent conversation, a way to pass down stories, express care, and sometimes even to confront unspoken tensions. The kitchen feels like the heart of the film, a sacred space where the tangible and emotional blend seamlessly. The film also uses the recurring motif of hands, especially the hands of the Nonnas as they prepare food, tend gardens, or simply gesture while talking. These hands tell a story of labor, love, and resilience. Close-ups of wrinkled, skilled hands chopping vegetables or kneading dough highlight the passage of time and the care embedded in every gesture. Hands become a visual metaphor for legacy. What is crafted by one generation is passed to the next, carrying meaning beyond words. Another subtle but powerful symbol is the home itself. The Nonna's house, with its cozy kitchen, cluttered shelves, and faded photographs, represents a repository of memories and family history. It stands as a symbol of stability and belonging amid the changes swirling around the characters. The house's worn but welcoming feel suggests that while time marches on, some places hold the essence of who we are. The film contrasts this with scenes outside the home, busy markets, city streets, highlighting the tension between rootedness and the wider, sometimes impersonal world. Nature also plays a metaphorical role in Nonnas 2025. The garden where some ingredients are grown and the market where fresh produce is bought symbolize cycles of growth, renewal, and the seasons of life. These settings remind us that life, like cooking, follows rhythms that can be messy but are ultimately nourishing. The blooming plants and fresh herbs become subtle reminders of hope and continuity, while wilted leaves or empty spaces hint at loss and change. Visual cues are sprinkled throughout the film to reinforce these ideas. The warm color palette of reds, oranges, and earth tones evokes a sense of comfort and tradition, inviting the audience to feel the warmth of the family's world. Lighting often shifts to highlight emotional moments, soft glows during tender scenes or sharper contrasts when conflicts arise, using visual language to enhance mood without a single word spoken. Even small objects carry symbolic weight, like an old family cookbook passed down through generations. This book isn't just a collection of recipes, it represents heritage, the stories behind each dish, and the responsibility of carrying that legacy forward. When the cookbook changes hands or is referenced, it signals moments of transformation and connection between characters. Metaphors also appear in the characters' relationships. The Nonnas, with their fierce protection of tradition, symbolize the past, while the younger generation represents change and adaptation. The interactions between them become a dance of negotiation, where the past and future meet, clash, and eventually find harmony. This dynamic mirrors the larger theme of cultural continuity versus evolution. In some of the film's most poignant scenes, silence itself becomes a metaphor. Moments without dialogue let the audience soak in the unspoken feelings and tensions, emphasizing what words cannot capture. These pauses invite viewers to read between the lines and connect emotionally with the characters' inner lives. All these layers of symbolism and metaphor work together to create a film experience that is rich and textured. They deepen the themes of family, culture, and identity without ever feeling heavy-handed. Instead, they invite the audience to look closer, think deeper, and appreciate the artistry behind the storytelling. Nonnas 2025 uses these visual and narrative devices not just to decorate the story but to amplify its heart and meaning in ways that stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Nonnas 2025 isn't part of a sprawling franchise or a sequel in the traditional sense, but it definitely feels like it belongs to a larger conversation about family, culture, and food that spans generations and genres. If you think of it as a chapter in an ongoing story about the joys and challenges of keeping traditions alive in a changing world, It fits perfectly. The film invites viewers to see it not just as a standalone tale but as part of a broader tapestry of stories about heritage and identity, much like a cherished family recipe passed down and reinterpreted over time. While it doesn't rely on previous installments, Nonnas 2025 still manages to create a sense of continuity with films and stories that celebrate similar themes. It taps into a cultural nostalgia that many audiences will recognize, drawing from a rich history of films about immigrant families, matriarchs, and the power of food as a connector. In this way, it feels like a fresh entry in a timeless genre, paying homage to the past while carving out its own space with contemporary voices and perspectives. The film's setting and atmosphere are deeply rooted in a specific cultural and historical context, even if it's not explicitly a historical drama. You can feel the echoes of past decades in the way the characters talk, dress, and interact, as well as in the homes and neighborhoods they inhabit. This grounding gives the story a texture that feels lived in and authentic, like stepping into a snapshot of family life that has been shaped by time and experience. It's not a textbook historical account, but it uses the past as a lens to explore present-day themes in a way that feels natural and immersive. Nonnas 2025 also plays with the idea of history being something personal and flexible rather than fixed and distant. The family stories, recipes, and traditions depicted are all part of a living history that changes as it's told and retold. This approach to history makes the film feel relevant and relatable, showing that the past isn't just something that happened long ago, it's something that continues to influence who we are and how we connect with each other today. In terms of accuracy and immersion, the film shines by focusing on small, authentic details that bring its world to life. The props, costumes, and settings all feel carefully chosen to reflect the culture and era without overwhelming the story. These details create a sense of place that feels genuine, whether it's the way a kitchen is arranged or the bustling local market scenes. It's a subtle kind of authenticity that invites the audience to believe in the world of the film without feeling like they are in a history lesson. The film's narrative also respects the complexity of its historical and cultural context by acknowledging conflicts and changes rather than glossing over them. It doesn't idealize the past but presents it with all its warmth, messiness, and contradictions. This nuanced portrayal adds depth and keeps the story grounded, making the characters' struggles and celebrations feel real and meaningful. Even though Nonnas 2025 is not tied to a larger franchise, it has the potential to inspire spin-offs or sequels because it opens up so many avenues for exploring family and culture in different ways. The rich characters and their stories feel like they could easily continue beyond this film, inviting audiences to imagine what comes next. This open-ended quality gives the film a sense of belonging to a bigger narrative universe in spirit, if not in formal structure. In short, Nonnas 2025 sits comfortably within a cultural and cinematic tradition that honors history while making room for new stories. It uses its historical context not as a constraint but as a source of inspiration, weaving past and present into a narrative that feels both timeless and fresh. The film's immersive world and personal approach to history create a rich backdrop that enhances every scene, making you feel like you're part of something much bigger than just one story on screen. Nonnas 2025 is a great example of how a thoughtfully managed budget can yield a film that punches well above its financial weight in terms of production quality and audience impact. Unlike those massive blockbusters with hundreds of millions to throw around on high-octane effects and star-studded casts, this film operates on a much leaner budget, but it never feels cheap or underwhelming. In fact, the modest budget seems to have inspired the filmmakers to focus intensely on the details that truly matter, capturing the essence of the characters, the warmth of the settings, and the delicious authenticity of the food that plays such a central role. Every prop, every carefully designed kitchen, every set piece feels deliberately chosen to build a believable and inviting world, and that level of care often shines brighter than any amount of CGI. The production quality is surprisingly high considering the financial constraints. Cinematography feels intimate and thoughtful, lighting is used expertly to create mood and texture, and costume design perfectly reflects the personalities and backgrounds of the characters. It's clear that resources were allocated smartly, investing in areas that enhance storytelling and emotional resonance rather than flashy distractions. This approach results in a film that looks polished and rich in atmosphere, proving that a tight budget can be a creative advantage rather than a limitation when the team behind the camera knows exactly what story they want to tell. When it comes to box office performance, Nonnas 2025 did not set the world on fire with blockbuster-level numbers, but it carved out a meaningful niche. Its appeal is more focused and personal rather than broad and commercial, which shaped its financial journey in interesting ways. Instead of relying on a massive worldwide rollout, the film was released with a targeted approach, focusing on arthouse theaters, independent cinemas, and key streaming platforms where it could reach an audience that would truly appreciate its unique blend of family drama, cultural depth, and culinary charm. The marketing campaign reflected this focus, steering away from the typical loud, flashy trailers and celebrity-driven promotions common with big studio films. Instead, it emphasized the heartwarming and relatable themes of family, heritage, and tradition, alongside tantalizing glimpses of the food and settings that give the movie its unique flavor. This strategy appealed to food lovers, fans of indie cinema, and viewers seeking heartfelt stories about culture and identity. The marketing efforts worked to build anticipation within this specific audience, leveraging social media buzz, foodie influencers, and community screenings that helped spread word of mouth. Audience reception played a crucial role in the film's box office trajectory. People who connected with the movie did more than just watch, they became advocates. Positive reviews from viewers fueled conversations, recommendations, and repeat viewings, which extended the film's presence in theaters and later on streaming platforms. This organic enthusiasm is often the lifeblood for smaller films, and Nonnas 2025 benefited greatly from it. The sense of genuine connection many viewers felt helped sustain interest over time, keeping the film alive in the cultural conversation well beyond its initial release window. It's also important to note that the film's box office numbers were likely influenced by its appeal being somewhat niche. While it found devoted fans, it did not attract the large crowds that blockbuster action or fantasy films do. This naturally placed a ceiling on its commercial reach but did not detract from its success in other areas. In fact, the film's more intimate scale and targeted appeal may have contributed to its lasting impact on the viewers who did seek it out. It became a film people felt personally connected to, rather than just another movie in the multiplex lineup. The timing of the release also influenced financial performance. Coming out in a market crowded with bigger budget films, Nonnas 2025 had to compete for attention without the promotional firepower of those titles. Yet its unique voice and warm storytelling allowed it to carve out a space that was its own. On streaming platforms especially, the film found a second life, reaching audiences who might have missed it in theaters but later discovered it through recommendations and targeted marketing. This dual life cycle, modest theatrical run followed by streaming success, is becoming increasingly common for films of this scale, and Nonnas 2025 fits perfectly into this evolving landscape. In summary, Nonnas 2025 showcases how a modest budget can translate into a richly textured and emotionally resonant film when the creative team focuses on authenticity and storytelling. Its production quality reflects a careful allocation of resources that highlights the best aspects of the narrative without unnecessary extravagance. Financially, it may not have shattered records, but it achieved success through targeted marketing, strong word of mouth, and by resonating deeply with a specific audience. This combination of smart budgeting, authentic filmmaking, and effective audience engagement helped Nonnas 2025 become a memorable film experience that proves you do not need a blockbuster budget to make a lasting impact at the box office and beyond. If you're wondering where you can dive into the world of Nonnas 2025 and soak up all its charm, you're in luck because the film is pretty accessible across several platforms, making it easy for almost anyone to catch it in their own way. For those who enjoy the magic of the big screen, Nonnas 2025 had a limited theatrical release in select cities and independent theaters. Watching it on the big screen really brings the visuals to life, the rich colors of the kitchens, the close-ups of those mouth-watering dishes, and the warm, intimate atmosphere all feel amplified when you sit back in a theater seat with a good crowd around you. It's the kind of movie that benefits from shared reactions, whether it's laughter during a witty exchange or quiet moments of reflection that ripple through the audience. If catching it in theaters isn't an option because of where you live or timing, streaming is where Nonnas 2025 really shines in terms of accessibility. The film is available on several popular streaming platforms, so you can cozy up at home and enjoy it whenever you want. Streaming gives you the freedom to pause, rewind, or even watch it multiple times to catch those subtle cultural details and nuances in the characters' interactions. This flexibility is perfect for a movie like this that invites you to savor the story slowly, almost like a good meal you want to enjoy bite by bite. Plus, streaming means you can gather friends or family for a watch party, sharing the experience in a more personal, relaxed setting. For viewers who prefer owning their favorite films, digital rental or purchase options are also available on major platforms. Renting is a great choice if you want a one-time, focused viewing experience, while buying means you get to keep Nonnas 2025 in your digital collection for whenever the mood strikes to revisit its heartfelt narrative and warm family vibes. Either way, having the option to watch offline is handy for travel, commutes, or moments when you want to escape into the film's world without worrying about internet connections. Interestingly, some streaming services offer bonus content like behind-the-scenes footage, interviews with the cast and crew, or cooking segments inspired by the film's recipes. These extras add another layer of enjoyment and deepen your appreciation of how much care went into making Nonnas 2025 a sensory and emotional experience. Exploring this bonus material after watching the film can feel like getting invited into the family kitchen, learning the stories behind the scenes, and connecting with the filmmaker's vision on a whole new level. Another option for catching Nonnas 2025 is on television broadcasts, especially on channels that specialize in independent, international, or family-oriented films. Scheduled airings might not be as frequent, but they offer a chance to stumble upon the film if you enjoy browsing those channels for hidden gems. It's always a nice surprise to discover a movie like this airing when you least expect it, turning an ordinary evening into something special. When thinking about the best way to watch Nonnas 2025, consider what kind of experience you want. If you want to fully immerse yourself in the sensory details, the smells of the kitchen, the textures of the food, the warmth of family gatherings, a high-quality screen and good sound system will make a difference. Watching on a large screen or a well-calibrated TV with clear audio helps capture the subtle sounds of sizzling pans or gentle conversations that add richness to the story. This level of immersion transforms a simple viewing into a vivid and heartwarming experience. For those who love sharing movies with others, watching with friends or family can heighten the emotional impact. The film's themes of connection, tradition, and love become even more powerful when shared, sparking conversations and maybe even inspiring some culinary adventures afterward. Imagine finishing the film and then gathering around a table to cook or eat dishes inspired by the movie. It's an experience that extends beyond the screen and into real life. In summary, whether you prefer the communal buzz of a theater, the comfort and convenience of streaming at home, the ownership of a digital purchase, or the serendipity of TV broadcasts, Nonnas 2025 offers multiple ways to connect with its story. Each format brings its own flavor to the viewing experience, letting you choose how you want to savor this heartwarming tale about family, food, and tradition. So get ready to find your perfect spot, press play, and let the rich world of Nonnas 2025 unfold before you.